Hello everyone, my name is Michelle, and today we're going to be talking about the Pythagorean Theorem. So let's get started. So here is the formula for the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are legs of a right triangle, and c is the hypotenuse of a right triangle, which is the long side. And what we can do with this formula is, if we are given two legs, or a leg and a hypotenuse, we can find the other leg, or the hypotenuse, by solving for it algebraically. So here are two right triangles. I'm going to label both of them. So first, on the leftmost triangle, I'm going to label the legs. And this side is a leg, and this side is a leg. And the longest side is the hypotenuse, which is this side. So on the triangle on the right side, I'm going to label it how it is in the formula. So the legs are A and B. It actually doesn't matter which leg is A and which leg is B. And the hypotenuse is C. And just another reminder that the Pythagorean theorem only works on right triangles, and those are triangles with a 90-degree angle. And we know these are right triangles because there's a little square in this corner right there. So let's start on some examples. For example 1, we have A equals 3, B equals 4, and we have to find C. So I'm going to write out the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Then all I'm going to do is plug in my values for a and b. So a equals 3, so that's going to be 3 squared, plus 4 squared equals c squared. 3 squared equals 9, plus 4 squared, which equals 16. Well, that equals c squared. Then I'm going to add 9 and 16, and that equals 25. 25 equals c squared. And then I want to isolate the c, so I'm going to square root both sides. And that's going to get me the square root of 25, which is 5. So 5 equals c. I'll write it up here too. So on to example number 2. We have b equals 1, c equals 2, and we have to find the value of a. So let me write out the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. And now I'm going to plug in the values for b and c. So we have a squared plus 1 squared equals 2 squared. And I'm just going to solve this. 1 squared equals 1, and 2 squared equals 4. So now, since I want to isolate the a, I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. So we will get a squared equals 3. Then I'm going to square root both sides. And that gets us a equals the square root of 3. And since the square root of 3 doesn't simplify down any further, we can just keep it as that. So that is our answer. So next we have example 3. A equals 4, and c equals the square root of 19, and we are asked to find b. So let me write out my formula. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Then I'm going to plug in the values for a and c. So we have 4 squared plus b squared equals the square root of 19, putting this in parentheses so it doesn't get confusing, squared. So now I'm going to simplify. 4 squared equals 16 plus b squared equals the square root of 19 squared. The square root and the square will cancel out, so we just get 19. Then, since I want to isolate the b squared, I'm going to subtract 16 on both sides, get b squared equals 3. And then I want to isolate the b, so I am going to square root on both sides. And that gets us b equals the square root of 3. And since the square root of 3 does not simplify down any further, that is our answer. Alright, so on to example 4. This one's a little different. We get a picture of a triangle. So here we have triangle ABC, and we see that side AB equals the square root of 5, and side AC equals the square root of 3. And we're asked to find side BC. So first we have to figure out, what is side BC? Is it a leg or is it the hypotenuse? And we can see that because it is the longest side and it is across from the 90-degree angle, that means it is the hypotenuse, so that we're going to be looking for C. So the hypotenuse is C, and it doesn't matter which leg is A or B, so I'll just call this one A and this one B. So now we are going to plug them into our formula. I'll write it out first. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Plug in our A, which is the square root of 5, plus B square root of 3 equals C squared. Now we're going to simplify. The square root of 5 squared. The square root and the square cancel out, so we get 5. Same thing happens on the square root of 3 squared. So that'll be 5 plus 3 equals C squared. We'll add 5 and 3. We get 8 equals C squared. And to isolate the C, we're going to square root both sides, and we will get the square root of 8 equals C. Now we actually aren't done yet, because the square root of 8 can simplify, and it's always best to simplify when possible. So I'm going to simplify the square root of 8 using the tree method. I'll do it over here. So the square root of 8 has factors of 4 and 2. 2 is a prime number, so we'll circle that. 4 has factors of 2 and 2, and those are both prime numbers, so we'll circle them. Since this is a square root, we're looking for pairs. So we have one pair of 2, and those will leave the square root, and we have a 2 left inside the square root. So the square root of 8 simplified is 2 square root 2, and that is our final answer. Let me write that up here. So yeah, that is Pythagorean Theorem. I hope you learned something today, and have a wonderful day.